So we are live. I was enjoying that music too much. I'm not going to lie to you. I was going to sit on that intro for about 15 minutes there, but I couldn't. I couldn't keep you waiting. So we have the Halloween special, BTK. BTK, let me just unmute Sean here. I'm a very unprofessional host. So BTK, Dennis Rader, I mean, this guy has been depicted in so many different ways. It's unbelievable. This is born evil. Tonight, I've went full professional for you guys. I've got a list of sort of facts, even though I don't need facts. I don't need the facts because I've got a fact checker here, but it keeps us on track. And this guy is the epitome of evil, and I had to pick that rock music, that metal music, because it was so I don't know, it describes the guy's personality. Like when reading into this guy, I just was like, wow, this is the epitome of evil. But this is the Halloween special, so make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share on other social media platforms, just share a copy, link to clipboard, make a little social media post, send to your friend on Facebook or WhatsApp Messenger. Unfortunately, we're not streaming on Kick tonight because Kick's just a new platform, and it's still I'm still filling out the process, but I am live on Rumble and I'm on YouTube right now. For anybody that's watching in Rumble, apologies if I don't see your comments or if you don't pop up on the screen how many viewers are watching tonight from Rumble. Normally I'm pulling in like 30, 40 viewers just on Rumble alone. I've only got like 120 followers, so apologies about that. I'm going to have to source a different streaming platform to actually get you guys on the screen. But if you are watching this in Rumble, make sure you give this a Rumble. Do the same things as YouTube. Go over and subscribe to my YouTube at Holden Official One. All the links are in the description. And and show support. If anybody's watching on YouTube, listen, I'm not a beggar. I don't beg. I'm not on the street with a hat out saying, please, sir, give me more. I'm not monetized. If you do want to support the channel, there's a buy me a coffee link there. I don't promote it, but somebody said to me the other day, Ronan, you have to promote this buy me a coffee link. So it says, right, look, if you just want to buy me a coffee, the link is there. I'm not saying you have to. I do this because I love to do it, not because of the money. I don't really care about money or monetization. It's just a pleasure that I get to come on the screen with a guy like Sean Warner, who is a serial killer expert and basically you're a profiler. For people who don't know Sean, this guy is, this guy should be working for the FBI. There's no two ways about that. The way you understand serial killers is just next level. You're an encyclopedia of serial killers and a hell of a lot, and you've got a story yourself. So Sean, thank you very much for joining us tonight. How are you keeping, sir?
Absolutely. I'm always happy to be here talking to you and everybody. Sharing information about a topic that can be controversial. A lot of people just write off serial killers or um, you know, people who have mental health issues and don't get help and end up in these nightmare situations. A lot of people just write them off, but you know, I don't do that.
So just to answer a question from Cement Shoes, my new mod, thank you very much. He came onto the Feature Man stuff the other day, and he was an encyclopedia of knowledge in regards to the Feature Man stuff. So massive respect to Melissa, Deadly Kitten, and anybody that tunes into this. But big respect to Cement Shoes. No, I do not have channel membership. I've been demonetized. I've been took out of recommendations, everything that YouTube, because I spoke about certain things in videos that is deemed not desirable by the YouTube algorithm. But listen, it is what it is. I don't care if one person tunes into this or nobody tunes into this. At the end of the day, I'm learning from Sean. I'm taking information that will stay with me for the rest of my life. So this is just, I see this as not a podcast, not an entertainment thing. This is me and Sean having a conversation about a certain thing, and everybody else gets to look in. Whoever else wants to look in, the opportunity is there. So I'm not really in this for the money. But if the memberships come about, I will start memberships. But unfortunately, YouTube is doing everything in the power to completely and utterly, and by the 5-minute mark, completely and utterly fuck me. That's just the way it is. But listen, enough about that. Thank you for joining us. For everybody that's joined us. The whole serial killer thing, people have been saying, why are we talking about it? Why are we doing this? Well, I'm doing it because it's a very interesting topic, and we're going through every single serial killer that there is, and then we're going to be speaking about a hell of a lot more. But it is the Halloween special, and the only way that it can start off this, the first question I have for you, the BTK, what does BTK stand for?
BTK stands for bind, torture, kill. And that was his modus operandi. That was his method of operation. He was a Navy guy, so he was proficient at just about every kind of knot you could think of. So he would tie his victims up. He would spend quite a bit of time with his victims. It wasn't just go in, get the job done, and get out. He would investigate his potential victims. Um, you know, um, like after he targeted someone, he would watch them, get their daily routine down, and then he would make his move. He would cut the telephone line because we're talking about 1974. Um, uh, around the time of the first uh, BTK murder, and he would do all this reconnaissance, and then he would make his move. Um, however, the first time he kind of got his timing off a little bit. He thought he was going in to kill one person, and he ended up taking out just about an entire family, except for two minor children that were already at school. But unfortunately, there were also, um, the mother, the father. The family was called the Otero family. This was in Wichita, Kansas, where all of BTK's murders took place. The really terrible thing about this first one was the little daughter was still there, and he hung her in the basement from like a drainage pipe, and he was not uh, what you would call he was a sexual sadist, but he didn't commit acts of sexual of a sexual nature, so to speak, on his victims, but he would um, sort of finish himself off at the sight of their dead bodies.
It's
So
like
that,
there was so many factors that went into the killings. It wasn't just that there was a sexual element, but that
yeah,
wasn't it. There was an actual gratification, and not
right.
sexual gratification. It was like,
Well, it was sexual, but it wasn't with another person. It was a auto erotic type thing. I mean, I don't know exactly
well,
how well.
it says here, right? So the point number one that I wanted to get at, right? Because I was reading
Mhm.
this and I thought this was very good. It was bullet pointed for you to react to and give us more information. So
Okay.
he killed animals as a child. Unlike a lot of serial killers, Rader's childhood was, by most accounts, unremarkable. However, he also admitted to
Mhm.
having fantasies about torture and
Yeah.
bondage from childhood. As a Boy Scout, which is very interesting, the Boy Scout thing. We'll get into that in just a little
Yeah.
minute. He knew
That
how to
that comes into play very significantly.
well, he knew how to tie knots and nooses. His first victims were animals which he hanged. So there's two things I need to ask you there, Sean.
Okay.
Is there a connection to uh, pedophilic entities in the Boy Scouts? Not, that's the first question. And the second question would be, um, do you think that's where he learned his trade? And not when well, if you get what I'm saying, his trade, is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
where
yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
harnessed his evil?
Right. Well, it's kind of proven that most serial killers start to have these dark fantasies around like adolescence, some even before that. But the animal abuse thing is it's not a cold hard fact that all serial killers are animal abusers, bedwetters, and fire starters. That's the McDonald Triad of uh, psychopathy. It's not it's not even used anymore because it's more often not the case. Um, Certainly, there are some that may have indulged in one or all three, but it's not enough to say that it's a consistent thing throughout all serial killers. At one time, it was thought to be, but it's really outdated.
Well, a lot of these serial killers have broke the mold, and I heard a great quote from a guy. I forget the guy's name. He was an FBI profiler, and he says, "Look, we know about the serial killers that we catch." He goes, "But most certainly that there's serial killers out there today in America and around the
Mhm.
world that will never be caught because they totally go against the grain, and
Right.
they
There,
kill in different ways." Some of them, he says, he heard of relevance to ricin. There was a series of ricin killings
mhm.
in America where some woman would drink from a bit of from a glass of Coke, And then it would happen in LA, it would happen in Florida, it would happen in New York, but it was all very in a similar chain of foods, and they've got a name for
Right.
this guy, and they says that is a serial killer, but they can never catch him, but
Right.
or her, because it's so sophisticatedly done. So the serial killers that we see today are from the past, even, and even today are the ones that can be caught, but there's actual very cunning, sophisticated serial killers, way more intelligent than anybody that we know. Would that be correct, or is that
Yeah,
wrong?
yeah, no, no, that I would agree with that because the and that's kind of what I was getting at the beginning. I why I don't advocate capital punishment for these guys and regular prisons, because they need to be studied and we need to learn everything we can from them. um, you know, uh, when you have someone like John Wayne Gacy or Ted Bundy in custody finally, that's the culmination of a huge, uh, usually task force. You're talking about multiple states working together to catch these guys, millions of dollars, thousands of man hours. Um, and to just get them into custody, interrogate them, and then put them on death row, it just seems counterproductive to me.
Yeah, there needs to be chemical tests done with the
There needs
brain.
to,
There
right, I
need
mean, the
everything needs to
most
be
they
done.
did with Bundy, I mean with Gacy, was they gave his dead brain to a science, to a doctor to examine. What can you learn from a dead brain?
So
you
yeah, so
know
here's a question from Melissa Neal, and I'd never take enough questions from Melissa, and I apologize about that because she's a diehard supporter of mine, and there's a question here from her. Question: do you think there is as many serial killers today with the technology out now?
well, there definitely are different sort of roads for them to navigate now. I mean, if you consider the amount of uh, closed circuit cameras and television that people are on from the time they leave their house to the time they return, it's not as easy for them to just hop in a van and pick up a hitchhiker and kill them like it was in the 70s. So, but now there are other ways. We've had the Craigslist killer. We've had Luca Magnotta, who was, or I mean, who killed and cannibalized someone on film, or on video, and posted it. So there.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, it's completely crazy because there is today. There's still going to be there. There's still going to be people that have this urge to kill.
The
But
technology provides different ways for them to also
exactly.
circumvent the technology, so it's
Yes.
like it does make it harder for them, but it also provides different avenues for them to pursue, like Luca Magnotta, torturing animals. You were brought up torturing animals. He did that live on YouTube and different video platforms.
Hmm.
Um, and that's how he became known, and he escalated from the technology.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe if he wasn't able to readily post videos of himself suffocating kittens and drowning kittens, maybe he wouldn't have escalated to killing people, or
Man, I have to say this. I love cats. I love animals. Right? I
yeah,
could
me too.
like I could never ever hurt an animal. I've got a little kitten in this house. A wee, it's a well, it's not a kitten. It's a cat. I still call it the kitten Poppy. And me and him
I
have
have a
just.
cat named Poppy.
Are you
Yes,
serious?
yes, he has three legs. Someone shot him and we rescued him.
My God, I've got a cat called Poppy too. That's absolutely
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
universe has aligned us with cat lovers here, and we've called our cats Poppy. But this little kitten, this little cat, we've imprinted on each other. He loves me. If anybody hurt that cat, I'm doing life. I'm not if they ran over it, or but if they intentionally
Right.
hurt the cat, I'm doing life in prison because this cat means everything to me. But just to stay on track here, right? So, do you think there's a link between Dennis and the Boy Scouts? Because the series, the new series has came out on Netflix, where basically the Boy
Mhm.
Scouts have been exposed of basically being a bit like the Catholic Church,
That exactly like the Catholic Church.
a
That's
pedo
the that,
a
you know.
a pedophilic cult that was just doing whatever they wanted to boys. And do you think that there's a link between the Boy Scouts and their pedophilic activity and their evil activity and BTK himself?
Well, I think that he didn't abuse any Boy Scouts,
But the evil I'm talking about, there was they just
yeah,
didn't abuse kids. I've heard stories that they were killing kids in the Boy Scouts, that there was kids going missing, like kids in homes. They were
yeah,
going out for the weekend and kids would just go missing. It was sort of like they were facilitating parties. And do you think
right.
the evil
I
entities of the Boy Scouts was a facilitator of BTK?
No, no,
Okay.
no, because Dennis had what he described as this thing called Factor X, which it was him going into this area of his own mind where he would do his what he called missions. He would set up his hit kit, which was his bag with duct tape, zip ties, his gun, although he never used the gun other than to well, he did use it once, but he mainly used it as um, a for a threat, to say, to make his victims more compliant to his orders, because he would take control of the scene from the moment he got in. He was very controlling, even in his home life, But the thing about his home life is, he was a husband, a father. He never abused his kids. He never abused his wife. He never abused the Boy Scouts. That he was a troop leader. He took all of these other um, uh, sort of responsibilities very seriously. He was like um, an alpha male, and he would have been like the worst person to have as your neighbor, because he was actually on the neighborhood committee that would say, "Hey, you need to cut your grass. Hey,
So is
you know,
I
you
is he giving off vibes then of American Psycho? Like,
sort of, yeah, but not. He didn't play in that league. He wasn't like a businessman. He was a working class guy. He ended up becoming a park ranger. He was a like a police nut, kind of like Ed Kemper was. He wanted to be friends with the police. So when he started killing, he reached out to the police, and he was like, um, I believe it was after his third killing, he said, "How many people am I going to have to kill before I get some publicity?" Because they weren't, the authorities in Wichita, they weren't sure what to go public with, and fear of a copycat, or what they should hold close to their chest, and say, "Look, when we catch this guy, we need to be sure it's him, so we can't put all these details out there." I
so he
mean,
was he's a grandiose narcissist
yes,
by definition. He wants to be.
yes,
He doesn't want unearned attention because he's violently and evilly earning the attention by his sick crimes. But he is the grandiose narcissism would be him doing this for the recognition. He doesn't care about going to prison. Like,
no,
forget about the fact that he didn't physically abuse his family or mentally abuse his family. At the
mhm,
same time, he made up for it whenever he was caught. because all that mental
Oh,
torture.
yeah,
Do
yeah, of
you know what I
course.
mean? It doesn't make a
Yes,
difference.
yes.
It's like he knew what was coming for his family, so I may as well give them an easy time now. Like if this guy didn't think he was, if he thought I'm never going to get caught, he probably would have been an asshole to his family too.
Well, but you see that I don't know if I don't necessarily agree with that, because that was the thing about Dennis Rader and his what he would call cubing, which was just compartmentalizing. You know, he he could go into these modes of, and they never crossed. They never, one never affected the other. When he was out killing, that was what he was doing.
Borderline
He,
personality disorder, maybe too.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And you know, he would get himself into situations where it would actually, where his job would facilitate his uh I don't know what you want to call it, extracurricular activities. He worked for ADT, which in America is a home alarm system, and it was one of the first. So, you know, again, we're talking about the mid 70s, early
I
70s.
I've got so many questions about that, Sean. Like you've packed my brain with questions here, and I have to go back to the first question. So it's not a coincidence to me. I understand that he wasn't maybe pedophilic in his nature, and that
No.
maybe he didn't get his kicks off that. But the fact that he has ties to the Boy Scouts and what's been exposed about the Boy Scouts is, maybe we'll just set that aside for another day because my mind's absolutely exploding at the minute with questions in
Okay.
regards to that. But what's standing out to me is and I think maybe this is where we should really start off from. So as a child, was there any red flags that he was that there was something going on here? Could people have stepped in, or was he even
Mm-mm.
cunning as a child to hide who he really was?
He was he he was completely unremarkable as before his killings. He, you know, he didn't um he wasn't a drunk, he wasn't a drug user, he wasn't you know, he was so far under the radar that even when he started killing, he wasn't getting uh what he wanted, the attention. You know, he wasn't getting it. And three guys confessed to the Otero killings, and that really set Dennis off. And if you, I mean, I don't know how many people listening have had any contact. Probably very few have had any contact with Dennis Rader, but I had um, a 3 year correspondence with this guy, and
Wow. Wow.
so you know, I know how he communicates, how he
Break that down for us, Sean. Break that down for us, the communication that you've had with BTK. So, for people who don't know, Sean has spoke to several different serial killers, top sort of high flying figure ones that are in the public domain, and some that aren't so much in the public domain. But
Mhm.
obviously, BTK would be one of the most prolific ones that you've had.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
so,
Well, definitely
what
the most, one of the most well known, most prolific would have been
So walk
Sam
us through
Little.
then. Walk us through then. What was it like? How did you reach out? How did you get in contact with BTK in the first place?
Um, I just I looked on the Kansas inmate locator, typed in Dennis Lynn Rader, and I didn't have his prison ID number, but because I had his middle name, and um, it came up, and he was the only Dennis Rader in the system. So I said, let me just, you know, write him and see what, you know, how he responds, what he has to say, if he replies at all. And he responded very quickly. I mean, it was um, probably 2 weeks, and I received the first letter from him, and you know, he was relatively cordial. You know, didn't talk about killing, didn't talk about being a serial killer. Didn't Only once in one letter did he refer to himself as BTK.
That must have
Um,
been a trip, man. Even that one time, that would have
yes,
been like, what the fuck am I doing right now?
right, right.
I'm writing the
Well,
BTK.
strangely enough, I mean that's I mean I know a lot of people write the serial killers and they get you know um a kick out of selling the things they get from the I don't sell anything that I get from I have artwork from tons of serial killers, letters, obviously, signatures, pictures, um, but I don't sell them because I don't look at them like they're baseball cards or trinkets or anything like that. To me, they're a source of information and an archive to kind of
Yeah,
look back on.
100%, 100%. Yeah, you don't see it as a monetary purpose. You see this
No.
as a lifelong thing that, and I suppose to agree, very interesting because you can come on here and you can tell us about it. So, what
Mhm.
would be the things that Dennis would speak about?
He, well, first, it's very mundane things, books that he was reading,
What are the books? Tell us some of the books that he was reading.
just the most middle, mainstream crap like uh, um, law type thrillers like the Firm and what was that guy's name who wrote all those books? Um, they made them all into movies like The Chamber, and um, he
I
was a
would I
lawyer
wouldn't know.
himself.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, uh, he didn't read. He hated like it's so funny because the majority of the serial killers that I've spoken to don't like to read or watch horror films. They don't like Haddon Clark hates horror films. He's only seen like two in his whole life. You know, so it's any kind of preconception you go in with is probably going to be completely blown apart. If you're writing to um let's say Dennis Rader, and you're expecting to hear him say, "Yeah, I love Psycho and Friday the 13th, and I love watching," uh, I don't
No,
know.
this motherfucker's into Disney. He's watching Pinocchio and the
he,
fucking Captain Hook and shit. You know what I mean? This guy, but you could imagine a footballer doesn't really a footballer plays football, but he's not going. His whole life isn't devoted to watching football. Maybe if he's training for a game, it's like
Mhm.
a serial killer isn't going to put. It makes sense because their life is so evil in itself. A
Right,
movie,
right,
a movie doesn't make. Watching a movie to them is just probably like, you know, nothing.
right.
They live that life basically.
Yeah, but there are, then there are some like uh uh the Gainesville Ripper, Danny Rawling. He loved horror films. He says that The Exorcist 3, he would watch it every day. That he would literally watch that movie every day.
Fred
And
West's favorite movie was Bambi.
yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Well,
what's going?
Fred West was a pedophile, so that makes sense. He was uh he was his own special kind of villain. What they did, the Wests, they were uh I mean that was as close as you're gonna get to
We'll do
pure
what
evil.
we'll do Fred West another time. Maybe we'll have that for next Halloween, or maybe we'll do that as a Christmas special. I do not know, but sort of to stay on the BTK stuff here. So he had a scrapbook, and the scrapbook. So Rader's obsession extended to him cutting out pictures of women from adverts and magazines.
Yes.
He drew ties and gags onto the pictures and then
Mhm.
stuck them onto cards that he carried out that he carried around with him. So what was the deal with the scrapbook? Is that him envisioning the perfect victim?
Well, you see, he was he was a perfectionist, and he wanted to, uh, you know, capture that he only had one crime, one murder where he thought it was actually perfect to the way he wanted it to go.
Hmm.
From start to finish, it was, like his masterpiece. And so, yeah, these cards that he made, he would go even further. He would tie himself up wearing women's underwear and wearing this mask of, a woman's face and hair, and he would, bind himself the
Is
way
this
he,
a real skin or is it just a fake mask?
it's a fake mask. It's
Oh
a
yeah,
like a
false face.
plastic Halloween mask. But he would, tie himself up, hang himself upside down, and he would rig up this Polaroid camera, which is an old time camera that the picture would come out instantly. You wouldn't have to take the film to be developed. It would actually come right out of the camera. And so he would use this Polaroid camera to take pictures of himself, bound. He would dig graves, bury himself alive. He wanted to experience what he was putting his victims through. He wanted to, um, he felt that if he could do that to himself perfectly, then
Mhm.
he would know how to do it to his
He
victims
he was
perfectly.
and in other words, like I mean, that's a complete freak. Like the fact that you're talking about being able to switch. Like he sounds like a very conservative guy, but then all of
Yes.
a sudden he turns it into sort of super far left liberal, where he's dancing like Buffalo Bill with fucking women's clothes on.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
it's really it's like seeing it's like seeing who's really conservative. It's like seeing Donald Trump jumping about in a dress. It's very strange. So the
Well, if
Terry.
you have to look at people who have, multiple facades. Like J. Edgar Hoover was a cross dresser, the head of the FBI. And here he was keeping files on people like John Lennon and Bob Marley, while he was, in his personal life dressing up in women's clothes. So he was calling everybody else subversive, while he was himself quite subversive. So
So what's
it's
the
not out of character for someone to,
yeah.
say one thing and do another. That kind of is par for the course. I mean, look at what we talked about last time with the, Mormon church and religion. People, they present themselves as what they want to be perceived as, and then there's the real person.
And so he dressed his victims. Torturing and murdering women wasn't enough for Rader. He also liked to reenact his crimes on himself. He would
Mhm.
put, as you say, put on a lady's mask, dress up as the women he murdered, put on their underwear, and then tie himself up to take photos. He once came close to getting caught after he tied himself up during a scout outing and found himself
Yeah.
unable to get free. So imagine that, right? So you've murdered somebody, and then it's a
Mhm.
couple of days later you're dressed up in this a bit of free time when you've got a scout outing. You're surrounded by children. He's tied up in knots like the weirdo that he is,
Mhm.
and and he nearly gets caught. Do you know how he got out of that situation?
Yes, but that's not even um the worst part of what, or the closest call he had while he was on an outing with the scouts. He was on, I guess, what they call like a scout jamboree or a camp out or whatever, but he had been stalking this victim, and he was ready to go in that night. So what he did was he put all the little scouts to bed in their tents, and then he went off to, complete his mission, which he did. And he, on his way back, he stops at one of these like roadside restroom things, and he goes in. He's, cleaning himself up. He's got his scoutmaster uniform on. A state trooper, which is like state police in America.
They are heavy dudes. Like that, you get stopped by a state trooper, there's a good chance you're going to get your head blown off if you're doing anything wrong. Like,
Yeah, they're known to be, a lot more aggressive and than your city police officers. But
big up the state troopers. There you go. Big up the state troopers and their aggressive actions.
so he goes in and he sees Dennis there cleaning himself up, but he also sees a guy in a scoutmaster's uniform. So he's like, you know, what are you doing out here? He's like, well, obviously I'm at a scout camp out. Just had to, leave for a little while. I'm on my way back right now. He's got all of his hit kit in his car, in his trunk. The officer doesn't even ask to search his car or anything, you know, doesn't even
Is there
really.
a body in the back of the car?
No, no, not a body. He didn't take bodies from the scenes,
So it was
you
just
know.
his dress up gear.
Well, his zip ties, his knife, he
But I
carried.
suppose, if a state trooper had stopped them and checked, he could have said that that was for the scout trip, and actually a lot of the stuff in the back of the car isn't
mm,
his, like knives, ropes. That's the sort of stuff that you would use
mm,
on.
Not zip ties, I mean, he had incriminating stuff in there, and he had his little. He would take trophies and put them in these places that he called hidey holes, where he would dig up a certain area and put a bag of, lingerie, jewelry, driver's license, whatever he took from a particular victim, and he would put these trophies in these hidey holes. And the thing about what you're saying, the cop could have said, well, look, okay, these are things that a scoutmaster would use. It wasn't just like, a hunting knife and a shovel and things of that nature. There was some incriminating stuff in there. If the guy was an investigator fresh out of the academy, he would have said, well, look, somebody was just murdered. This guy, he's at a rest stop, in the middle of the night, and some's worth looking into here. But
Yeah.
it didn't even get to that point because Dennis was so so hooked into his um personas that when you talk to him, you just believed what he said, and
Hmm.
all serial killers
That's
are
mad, man.
are
Like
proficient liars,
he could literally, but that's the thing that comes with lack of empathy, and I do believe
right.
empathy is the key to, for instance, a person who doesn't have empathy, right? Because I'm not going to say the guy's name. There's a guy on YouTube at the minute who has no empathy, and this guy can lie. We all know who I'm talking about. He can lie. He can turn on the lies like in an instant, and that comes with lack of empathy, and maybe he's a little bit sociopathic. And I'm not saying that guy's a serial killer, by the way, but you would have to have that as a serial killer
Yeah,
to be a,
you have to have that ability,
yeah.
certainly if you're, connecting with all your victims on a human level, you're going to be putting yourself through hell every time you kill somebody, and you're not going to you're not going to commit too many murders, if you do have an extreme sense of empathy or
Mhm.
sympathy or any kind of connection with another human being, even if you're you know antisocial or a person who isolates himself from society, doesn't interact with people. It doesn't mean that you want to kill them.
Yeah, well,
um
we'll
you
actually
know
move on to that. The Ontario family, his first victims were a family,
yeah.
Joseph and Julie Ontario, and
Mhm.
two of, am I saying that name right? Ontario?
Otero.
Otero, sorry,
Mhm.
forgive me, Otero, and their two children. I think we spoke about that, but we'll speak about it a little bit more in depth here. Josephine and uh, Joseph Jr. were who were only 11 and 9. Radar had been stalking Julie and Josephine and was surprised to find Joseph at home when he broke into their house.
Right.
However, he managed to subdue them all by pretending to be an escaped criminal and using a gun. The
Yes.
bodies were discovered by a couple of teenage children, Charlie, Danny, and Carmen. Now, for me personally, right, I understand all killing is bad, and it is,
Mhm.
right? But for instance, if I'm a serial killer, I'll go out and I'll hunt for a victim. I get that. But now to go after a family, that's some next level stuff. What was how did he go about that, and what was the circumstances surrounding that?
Well, like that's the case I was speaking of at the beginning. That was his first killing, and he kind of mistimed it. He wasn't expecting a house full of people, so when he got in there, he instantly went into that escaped killer role, and he said, "Look, I'm on the run. I'm hiding out here. If you do what I say, no one's going to get hurt." Of course, that was all a ploy to make them more compliant, and he ended up um, tying up and killing each one in a different room, and taking Joseph Otero's watch, and that was his first sort of I guess.
Who was the main victim? Well, who was, sorry, the main victim? Well, who was the main? Who was he gunning for? Who did he want the most?
He wanted to kill the mother. I think her Julie Otero.
Was she a beautiful looking woman?
They were a young family, a young I think they were Latino, so they were a young family, just starting out, their first actual home, that was going to be their family home. Um, and if I'm not mistaken, their car was out of gas, and that came into play when Dennis went to leave. Um, uh, the other victims were children, so they and then the ones who discovered the ones who survived, they had to go on and live with the fact that their mother, father, sister, and brother are.
Is that her there?
Yeah, yeah,
She's actually a very beautiful looking woman, isn't she? She's like very wholesome looking. Like he's got does he have a profile of women? Like, is that, I don't. This is a
no,
black and white photo. I
yeah,
don't. She's got
no,
like
he,
black hair, very sort of Irish looking woman, maybe a bit of Mexican in her too, bit of South
yeah,
American in her too. But she's
yeah.
like,
Here, this picture right here, the four. That's the four Otero victims right there.
here.
Shows, yeah, this one right here underneath of um
Oh yeah,
I
here.
can't really point to it, but yeah,
This,
yeah, that one. Yeah, that's it. And the young girl, that's the one that he hanged from the drain pipe in the basement.
she's very
And
much like her mother, isn't she? She looks like her mother. There must be a bit
yeah,
of a South American in the miser, maybe.
yeah, that's what I said. I believe they were like a Latino family.
What did he do to the father?
He um if I'm not mistaken, he strangled them all, but I know that he didn't bind the father the way that he did uh the women. You know, he didn't spend time torturing Joseph Otero. You know, he didn't spend that sort of you know, I don't, it's not quality time, but you know, that extra time that he wanted to spend with his victims, torturing them, which was part of his moniker: bind, torture, and kill. The torture part was, you know, he would strangle them until he saw the life fading from their eyes, and then he would let up on the pressure and let them.
Guys, I'd see just on the right hand side. I just opened another browser there, so apologies. I can't show it full screen, but just on the right hand side, you can see a picture of four people side by side on just on the right hand side there. That's the father at the end, the mother second from the end, or second from the start, and then the little girl, her daughter, and then the son. And they're a good looking family, man. I mean this is a hard working American family that have been decimated here and have been murdered needlessly. These people would have went on to go on to be stand up members of the community. Regardless if they were who they were, they didn't deserve it. But he's chose a certain family here. Would it be correct in saying that he went for the clean living people?
Well, the victims weren't far from where he lived, you know. So you know, it was you know, middle class American neighborhood. You know, it was the type of neighborhood where people didn't lock their doors before this. You know, before Dennis terrorized the whole town. Um, people started locking their doors. People started buying guns to protect their homes. He really terrorized this whole area. These people were terrified. They lived under uh, the fear that they would find their telephone line cut, which was the first thing he did. And then he went in. They had no idea what he looked like. They saw him. He was the guy that they saw every day, most likely, in the grocery store, at the gas station. He was just so nondescript, so just, you know,
So what
unremarkable. He was just a balding, mustachioed, glasses wearing old guy. Not old,
But is
at
that is
that
that the, is
time,
that
but
the thing? Is that the true cover of a monster? Like, for instance, the greatest saying is the greatest thing the devil ever done was to make us think God didn't exist. And was that his persona? I'm just a bog standard, boring, old, balding guy
yes.
that's into drinking beer, having a cup of Joe, and speaking to the neighbors and cutting them along. But actually, in real life, this guy was a sadistic sadist that was a lot not more interesting, but a lot more infamous. And his mask was the boring.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right. He wasn't trying to downplay the psychotic sexual sadist. He just wasn't that person all the time. He went in, he when he went into that mode, that's who he was. When he came out of that mode, he was back to being the boring um, husband, father, oil changing, grass cutting,
He's the type of
you know.
guy you went to. He was the neighbor. Listen, uh, Dennis. Have you got a? Have you? Can you give me a hand fixing the oil leak in the car? Can you come over?
Sure.
I need a step ladder because I need to get into the attic. Yeah, yeah, of course, no worries, John. I'll be there in a jiffy. There's a question. There's not a question, but I want to move on to this part because this is interesting me here. I'm just reading this. The motel parties. Radar used the term motel parties for masturbation. He would go to a motel, binding himself and covering his
Hmm.
head with a plastic bag, just like he did with his victims.
Yes, yes.
What's the motel parties?
The motel parties, he would. I I think what these were things that he did between major events. You know what I mean? While he wouldn't rush a killing. You know what I mean? He wouldn't rush one of his plans. So when that feeling overtook him and he wasn't ready, he would go on these motel parties where he would pack a bag, um, put some of his trophies in there and go to a motel, and that's where some of those pictures
This
that
is says
we were
this is
talking.
says evidence photo. So this is actually him.
Yes, yeah, those aren't even the really creepy ones. There are ones where you can see him with the woman's mask on, the mask of the woman's face, and he's in one of them. He's literally hanging upside down. One of
Look at
them,
that, man! But the way it's set up, it's like first off, it looks like I don't know what to say about this. He's got the mask on. I can remember seeing this mask somewhere in a movie. I don't know. Maybe they took it from here. Maybe it was
to me, it looks
Red
like.
Dragon. Red Dragon. Do you remember the mask in Red
Oh yeah,
Dragon?
yeah. To me, it reminds me of like the um the terrorist, what was the prison where
ISIS.
they took um the Taliban prisoners, and they
Yeah, yeah, it
you
has
know
that. It has that sort of feel to it. And look at the binding of the legs, and he's got the women's clothes on. He's got the
yeah.
binding of the legs. This is extreme
Now
BDSM.
that, yeah, and think about it, that little nightie is from one of the women he killed. He didn't just pick that
Wow,
up at the department store,
wow.
you
So
know?
are we actively looking at a 90 of a woman that he murdered
Yeah.
on his body?
Yes. Yes,
Jesus
and
Christ, man.
he wouldn't have it any other way. He wouldn't want one that he just picked up from the department store. That has no, that doesn't get the job done that he wants done. That doesn't capture it doesn't have that feeling, that reliving the event. And that's what a lot of serial killers a lot of serial killers will do is, they have two types of items they'll take from a victim or a victim's house. One is a trophy and one is a souvenir. A trophy is something that they take off of the person that they killed, a personal, intimate item, whether it's a piece of jewelry, a piece of clothing, underwear, or something like that. A souvenir would be something more like a driver's license, or something from the house. Maybe a ring from the jewelry box that he would then in turn give to his wife, and every time he sees that ring, it's like a little secret that only he is in on. you know
Sorry, guys, if there's a bit of lag there. I can see that it's lagging on my end. So if it's lagging here, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, Guantanamo Bay. That's what I was thinking of. That's
Yeah,
what Stevie Boy just, yeah, that's
yeah, it's
exactly
like
what I was thinking of.
it's like the stuff that they would put over their head. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
it's absolutely fascinating. Let me just take off this. Just let me stop this screen. I think that's what's doing. Is that we're back to normal now? There you go. It was the screen. There was too much going on. So um there so we're going to talk about a woman called Shirley here. Shirley was a random. choice. Shirley wasn't
Yeah.
even his intended victim. Did we speak
Right.
about that before? Can we bypass
No, no,
or
Shirley was uh he had been watching another person's house before he ended up at Shirley Vianne's. Um, he was watching a woman. He went to her house. It just so happened that um, she wasn't home. So I think she was at a dancing or bowling or something. She was an older woman, so it was her night out. So, but Dennis was revved up. He was in the red. He had to go. So he ends up at Shirley Vianne's house, and he does. He goes in. He speaks to her very cordially. He says, "Look, this is what's going to happen if you go along with me. What I'll be gone. You can call the police, and everything will be back to normal. But this is going to happen." And he was just kind of telling her, "I'm going to tie you up," and you know, of course, once he gets her tied up, he immediately starts to torture her, strangle her to the point of death, lets her go, strangles her again to the point of death, and just does this repeatedly until he finally is bored or, gets to the point where he's ready to take care of himself and grab a couple souvenirs, trophies, and get out of there. So,
that's it's absolutely fascinating. There's a question here from Scotch Egg. What does Sean think about him blaming his need to kill on his mother, as when he did finally do that, he still killed the neighbor?
yeah, that was the what we just talked about. He killed the neighbor instead of um
But he blamed his need to kill on his mother. And I suppose there's a reference to that question, or sort of a second part. I went to see Makings of a Murderer live 2 months ago with Peter Tobin's
Tobin's.
Tobin's lead detective. His opinion I didn't agree with. So what's your opinion on him, on BTK
Uh,
blaming his mother on his need to kill?
that to be honest with you, that's the first time I've ever heard that, because every interview I've seen with Dennis, he for himself for his killings. He never
Well,
um
you spoke to BTK. Did he ever reference his mother to you?
no, no, no. I've read, and it's not just my my personal correspondence with BTK. I've read at least 5 books. I've read Kathleen Ramsden, her book on BTK. I read his own daughter's book, and there was never a reference to Dennis blaming his mother or even having any kind of Oedipal or parental maternal issues. So
Hmm.
I would be curious to read or see. I've heard of of course, a lot of the detectives that worked on the BTK case have done documentaries. Um,
Sorry to interrupt you, Sean. He meant
oh,
Edmund.
Edmund Kemper, yes, Edmund Kemper, definitely.
We'll keep Ed for another night, because me and Sean,
Yeah,
when we start speaking about, listen, people don't understand. This conversation goes on after the live. The real conversation, what we really want to say in this here, is after the live. I mean, I should start a Patreon or something for people to go over where we can say what the fuck we want. But listen, to sort of move on from that, we'll do Ed Kemper another time. It was actually
yeah.
it was a toss up between BTK and Ed Kemper for the Halloween special, and obviously BTK won. But so,
But to just to quickly
yeah,
address it, yeah, yes, Ed Kemper completely blamed his mother for everything he did. he killed her, called her best friend over, and then killed her too after he had already killed his mother. I believe that's what Scott is referring to. And you know, that's that's I mean, Ed Kemper is you know, he has a genius level IQ. He's a huge giant of a man. Everyone who has met him says he's very personable. He's not an aggressive person. He's sort of like I mean, I know it sounds ironic, but like a gentle giant. But like
I don't know. Like, yeah, like I've seen pictures of him with prison guards, and they're like they're all smiles. I'm like, man, this guy is. Do you even know who you're sitting beside? But listen,
right.
we'll speak about Ed Kemper later
Yeah,
because
I just wanted to let him know he's
yeah, yeah, of course,
absolutely right.
of course.
You
So
know,
he
and
mailed a near victim. He mailed a near victim. Did I say, have I asked you this already about he mailed a near victim her belongings? 63-year-old Anna
yes,
Williams was
yes,
another BTK target in 1979. Dennis entered her house and waited for her to arrive. However, she didn't return
yeah.
home. Is that the one I've just spoke about?
Uh, that's
No, I haven't asked this. I haven't got
no,
into this.
no, no, no.
Williams
That
later.
this is a
Wi-
woman where he did all of his reconnaissance and went in, and she wasn't there, and she didn't come home. So Dennis, um, yeah, that's true too. What somebody just said, but that's Edmund Kemper.
yeah.
Um, uh, Now, well, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, BTK.
Don't worry about the comments, Sean. Don't worry about the comments. There's so much. I know there's so many topics we can intertwine. And we will listen. To let Sean gather his thoughts. We will be doing a live some night with the conspiracy theory about all these serial killers being connected. We are working on that. I'm working on that in the background, and we're gonna be talking about that. But we were talking about he mailed a near victim her belongings, and that was Anna Williams. She was 63.
Yeah,
This was 1979. Williams later found out how close she came to death,
and she
though.
moved away.
And
She moved to another state.
yeah, and he goes, oh, and then hold on. He says when Dennis sent the belongings he had stolen back to her, as well as a poem entitled "Oh Anna, Why Didn't You Appear?" So
Yeah.
he went there, he went into her house, took her belongings, waited for her to come. He didn't manage to murder her because she didn't show up, and then he mailed her belongings back with a poem.
Hmm.
Oh Anna, why didn't you?
Well,
Why, oh Anna, why didn't you appear? That is fucking creepy, man.
he would write these poems. Um, that's one aspect that I wanted to touch on before we, I mean, the victims definitely, they deserve the attention more than the perpetrators. I mean, a lot of people get it mixed up, and I'm probably one of the worst ones to do that. I don't always think of the victims first. Sometimes I get so caught up in the personalities and motives and all the different
Well, it's
elements.
like nobody wants to hear about the DEA agents that took Pablo Escobar down. Everybody just wants to hear about Pablo Escobar. It's the same sort
Right.
of thing. We do. Me and you speak about the victims. There's police speak about the victims, but the victims aren't. There's profiling certain victims to understand why serial killers do it. But at the end of the day, people aren't interested in the victims. They're interested in the sick
Right.
sadists that target these certain individuals, and it's a sad reality, but unfortunately, it's true.
And
But
unless you're talking about the Manson killings where they killed celebrities. When
well, yeah,
when
yeah.
you're talking about something like that, then you up the
What was look
ante.
on a side note, Sean? What would I listen? I don't agree with Charlie Manson. He was a psychopath. There's no doubt about that. But what we know about Hollywood now and how it's ran, some of
Oh,
the stuff that he was saying was like, hold on, you don't understand. And on a side note, Manson turned down Scientologists to sort of help his life. He says, "Go fuck yourself, use whack jobs." That's
yeah.
how fucked up Scientology is. I just needed to say that. But just to stay on this,
Yeah, we can
Well,
definitely do a whole episode on
yeah,
Manson, and
yeah. Well,
I
do
would
you know what I
love
mean, man?
to.
We're
I
going
don't
off.
know. I
Do
can't
you know?
believe we haven't done one yet on
No, but
Manson.
do you know why? Do you know why we haven't done it, right? Because we want to talk about the serial killers. Apart from BTK, we want to talk about the serial killers that people don't know. And they're the
Right.
ones that actually have very interesting past. But to stay on Anna Williams, right?
Okay.
Or did we cover that? So he basically took, I mean, how, I mean, what the fuck? Like, why did he do that? Why would you send the clothes back?
I think that what he did was the reason why he did that was because he wanted to still be able to victimize her in some way. You know, mentally, psychologically, he still he
Yeah.
still had that need to victimize. And with the poems and the mail, Dennis used the mail as an extension of his his strangling. It was an addendum to his crimes. He would write to the police. Well, the whole way it got started was after the Oteros were killed. They had no leads, nothing. The case was completely cold. So these three guys confess to it and say, "Yeah, we did it. We killed." To get some fame, I guess, or some infamy, knowing that when it goes to trial, or if it even goes to trial, they're gonna not be found guilty because there's no evidence to support the fact that they did it. They just wanted to be in the limelight for get their 15 minutes of fame, to quote Andy Warhol. But what happened was they pissed Dennis Rader straight off by taking credit for his work. So Dennis
Was
immediately.
that a ploy from the cops, or was that a
No, no, this was a real thing. This was a real thing. Although the police did use several ploys to catch Dennis eventually, that he fell for hook, line, and sinker. Um, but this was an actual. You know, um, he sent a letter to the police saying, "Look, these three dudes," was the exact word that he used. "These three dudes that say they killed the Oteros are liars. I killed them, and this is how you'll know it." And he described each body, where it was, how it was situated in the room, east to west, how they were bound, what type of knots, everything. Only information the killer would know.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, "Okay, this is the killer. This is the killer." And he said, "Look, um, you know, you're going to hear from me again." And there was a pretty decent, yeah, the floppy disk. That's how he ended up getting caught. The 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 guy just
So
mentioned.
here's one for you, Sean. Right, to move on from that, and it's not that we're trying to bullet point them, because we can only say enough about one subject. And here's a really interesting thing that I've just read here. Now, I didn't see this part. His daughter recognized BTK's voice in the 1970s. BTK's voice was caught on tape
Yes, it was
when
caught on tape. Yeah.
when he rang the police to report one of his murders. The FBI later released this tape to the public in 2005. Rader's daughter, Carrie Rawson, heard
Hmm.
the tape. She told Slate she knew instantly that was her father. Now, what is the crack with that?
Okay. He calls the police from a payphone, and he does it several times. Uh, uh, he um, yeah, this okay, I gotta stop reading it. The
Yeah, I just put the comments on the screen so people know that I'm acknowledging them. Don't
Oh,
you
no,
worry.
no, no.
If,
I just like to.
if
I
there's a
want to get
question,
to get to the points that people seem interested in.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, but yeah, he used the phone to contact the police. You know,
Mhm.
again, you have to realize we're talking about the now late 70s going into the early 80s. He's using the technology that's available to open this correspondence with the police. Now, um, they didn't record the first conversation because obviously they weren't expecting the killer to call them, you know? So they're like thinking it's somebody, you know, having a go at them, you know? This guy's, you know, he's just taking the piss. He's trying to, you know, get us, you know, but then what he says turns out to be absolutely true and relevant. And so the next time he calls, they're a little bit more on the ball, and they get a recording, and they send the police to, you know, they're able to trace the call. They send the police to where the call originates from. They get there, the phone is dangling by the cord, and the cop picks it up, and it's still connected to the police. So they just missed him by literal like 2 minutes.
Wow,
And
man, that's crazy shit.
yeah, yeah.
That's
So
crazy shit.
so he said, look, you know, I'm gonna leave a letter for you at the Wichita University in an engineering book on the shelf, you know. So he leaves a letter, and he also, you know, he would send them letters, and they would oftentimes include uh, illustrations of, you know, women in uh, bondage. Uh, he,
How many victims did he have altogether? Sorry.
10.
So he had 10 victims, but it was
Mhm.
he had a big profile of killings. Obviously, 10's a lot of people, but
Yeah.
considering that they're serial, is do you think do you think he has more victims, or are they
Yes.
just registered
Yes.
victims?
He has 10 confirmed
Right.
victims and 10 uh, victims that he's serving life sentences for.
And when was he caught? What year was he caught?
Uh, it was in the 2000s. Uh, he had been the last kill that he had done was 25 years ago, between the time he was caught. So for 25 years, he was living his life. He was a park ranger, you know, he was basically, you know, like a police officer. I mean, he carried a firearm. Had a badge. He was responsible for policing an area. He was on the news several times. Uh, you know, he was the
He went a long period of time without killing then,
yes. Well, yes, he went a long period of time. Um,
between his ninth and 10th victim.
no, no. After his 10th victim, he stopped killing. He
What
says that he stopped killing, but he has admitted to, and they found his notebooks where he has hundreds of potential victims that he was still watching during that 25-year period, and he has stated that he was, you know, getting that urge where he had focused in on two or three that he was about to make his move on. So he was about to kill again. Now, if you can believe Dennis, who is has proven himself to be a proficient liar, um, you know, did he stop killing after that 10th one, or did he just get smart as to, look, I better stop taunting the police. I'm like, you know, I'm poking at a sleeping
or
dog here.
did he go for like low hanging fruit? When I say low hanging fruit, I'm
Well,
talking
I know
about
what you're talking. You're talking about, did he go for sex workers and stuff like that?
vulnerable
That
women.
wasn't his thing. That wasn't his thing. He needed the hunt. He needed that the whole process had to be there. Dennis didn't just want to kill somebody. It had to be. I
How
mean,
do you suppress that for 25 years? That's impossible.
that's you know, it does sound impossible, and I think you're right. I think it is impossible, and I don't think that he suppressed it for 25 years. I think that he did kill other people. I think that he just, you know, he since he had this other life, he was the president of his church. He's, you know, a park ranger, and you know, he gets back in touch with the police, which is so stupid. You know, after 25 years, I actually talk to Haddon Clark about this all the time. Haddon just thinks BTK, I mean, or Dennis is the most idiotic person on the planet. You know, he thinks
So
that,
that Haddon Clark, the other serial killer you speak to, has referenced BTK.
oh, we talk about other serial killers all the time on
That's fucking fascinating, man.
yeah,
That's so fascinating. And
that's basically all we talk about really is
are you serious, man? That
yeah,
is
well,
actually fascinating. That
he like I said, he likes to talk about TV shows that he's watching. He likes to ask me to get him certain celebrity autographs and sports players autographs, but beyond that, we mainly just talk about other killers. And
that's absolutely crazy. But just to get back to the 25 years for
okay,
me, is it possible? Just a theory of mine, right? Is it
hmm
possible that he said, "Look," because somebody just says that he had a close call, right? Is it possible that he moved up the ranks in his careers and
hmm
he moved up the ranks in society? Could it be possible that he got a little bit more financially stable and he was able to actually have another hunting field, maybe in different states? Was there any flight logs of him going
no,
away by himself in different states, maybe different countries?
mm-mm. No, he was you know, he was such a and unlike, you know, Rex Heuermann, whose, you know, family left the country quite often because his wife was from Iceland. So, um, uh, he was the type of person who, like I said, when he got into that, it was almost like he would have been a great actor, because when he took on a role, he like, you know, it was like this, you know, now he's this person, you know, now he's this person, then he's this person again, you know, it's he was he didn't have multiple personality disorder. um you know, as a matter of fact, I don't know that Dennis has ever been diagnosed with any uh um you know, garden variety mental health issues like schizophrenia or anything like that. You know, of course, he is mentally ill. I'm not saying that he's not. I'm saying that what he has is more complex than like I said, your garden variety.
Could he just be a sociopathic sadist?
Well, he is he is a sexual
But
sadist. You
that's
know,
what I mean, though, like a sociopathic sexual sadist.
he
That's what I
he
mean.
is those things,
That's his diagnosis. So that would be his diagnosis.
but
That
there's much more there. You see,
Mhm.
there's much more there than just that. There's the um uh the fact that he can turn these feelings off for and lay dormant for a certain amount of time.
Mhm.
Now, all serial killers do that by definition. A serial killer is, it used to be three, now it's two killings with a cooling off period in between. So that's part of what makes a serial killer is that dormant time before the next kill. A person that just goes and kills and kills and kills, that's a spree killer, and that's somebody that gets caught fairly quickly. You know, you had
It's sort of like a machine gun. It's sort of like an anti-aircraft gun. That the anti-aircraft guns during World War II, and they had a cooling down point before they could
Right,
shoot
right,
and kill again. These
right.
these people heat up to do the job. They heat up, and then they have a cool down point where they process it. Maybe they have their weird rituals that they would
Like the
do.
motel parties and things of that nature. Something to
Savor, savor in that.
alleviate.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
savor in the evil moment and and those evil juices of what you've just done, and watch the media and watch the reactions. Maybe go to the crime scene and speak to the police,
Yes, yes,
and
and a
sort
lot
of,
of,
you know.
I mean, here's a perfect example right here. Ted Bundy. That he would go back and visit his crime scenes. Only the thing that was extra evil about Ted is he would go back for necrophilia purposes, and the same with Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. He would go back and
Man, it's even somebody like I had not the pleasure, but like I've just like I said to myself, necrophilia is a weird thing. To me, it's the most unnatural thing.
it's gotta
Do you,
be,
do you know what I mean? And you
yeah.
just I could just imagine, oh, like it's fuck me, man. Like there's things that make me sick. I'm quite immune to a lot of shit, but that is next level. So listen, there's a question here that I want answered and Melissa wants answered, and you are the perfect guy to answer this here because you speak to most of these serial killers. I wonder, do serial killers watch YouTube? Do they
And
watch me, Sean? As any
I
serial
would
killers watch?
say that I personally, I don't speak to any active serial killers. I don't want anyone to get it twisted that I'm friends with active serial killers that haven't been apprehended yet. I don't. I mean, of course,
Is that a fear? Is
all of
that a
us.
fear? Is that a fear, maybe, Sean, with these shows that we're doing? Okay, for people, you're out there in the public domain. I suppose this is a double barrel question now.
Mhm.
Do non-active serial killers watch YouTube? And second question, are you ever afraid that an active serial killer will reach out to you because they think that you might sympathize with them because you speak to serial killers that are imprisoned?
I've often thought that I've been contacted by active serial killers on my Facebook. Um, some of the people, some of the conversations I've had have been, somewhat sketchy, but I I put it down to, if you're a serial killer, you're not gonna come right out and tell me you're a serial killer. That's just that's not how you stay out there. They don't know if they can trust me. They don't know, if I would turn them in, if I have a moral uh, predisposition to um, think all criminals should be punished, or anything
Well,
like
it's
that.
that goes beyond criminality. There's difference between, and I'm going to say this. And listen, I don't. If anybody's been affected by any type of abuse growing up, there's a difference between being a pedophile, a rapist, or any of those things, a murderer, even, to maybe a combination of all those things, and then going out and actively seeking victims, having a cool down point, and then having another victim cool down point, having another victim. That is next level. So that goes beyond a little. It's called a nonce over here. In the UK, and a root over here in Ireland. And nonce means not of normal criminal element. And that's
Hmm.
what it is. It's not normal criminal behavior. So it goes beyond criminal behavior. So if a serial killer did reach out to you and says, "Look, by the way, Sean, you speak to serial killers that are imprisoned. I am a serial killer. What would you do with that? What would you do with that information? Would you go to the police or would you have a conversation?"
Well, obviously, I'd have to have the conversation, to decide whether or not this guy's real. I mean, this guy, a couple years ago, actually, it's been quite a few years ago now. A guy called, I'm sure you know who Howard Stern is. He's an American radio host.
Yeah.
He's pretty famous. Well, he was really famous. I don't even
He's
know.
went downhill now. I used to watch a lot of stuff, and then he had
Oh,
he had
okay, so you know who he is,
yeah,
though.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so he had his, I believe this was when before his show was on Sirius, and it was just on the regular radio.
You and Melissa have a connection because she's just literally wrote a comment as you've brought up that. Remember the serial killer that rang up the radio station in America, said, I'm a serial killer.
Yes,
I can't remember his name.
that's who I'm talking about, and
Wow.
it was proven that the guy was a liar. You know what I mean? He wasn't a serial killer, but he had Howard Stern and his co-host Robin. They were like, "Look, you know, is this guy for real? Well, I mean, he sounds like he's for real. You know, they're asking him questions like, you know, look, what? So how do you decide who you're going to kill? What do you do? You know, they're asking him questions that you would ask a serial killer if you know if
Yeah.
you had one on the line. You know, you want to know these things, but at the same time, obviously they have a social responsibility to call the authorities, and I'm sure so many New York City police officers listened to Howard Stern that they were right on this guy, you know. Um, but he I listened to it and I was like I couldn't decide, and I mean this was way before I took a deep dive into serial killing. I mean, not that I'm a serial killer, but and took a my interest in horror movies and things of that nature to the next logical level would be to seek out real life monsters. So that's what I did.
Well, it's fascinating, man. If I had an opportunity, look, I've had questions. I'm just going to say, people in the background says, why does Sean speak to serial killers? Why do people do this? Hold on.
I get it all the
No,
time.
no, let, let
People
me
like
let me say this. Let me say this.
okay.
Pierce Morgan, right,
Hmm.
sits there with
I know.
a
He
pretentious fucking face, as if he looks down on everybody, and he interviews all these people, and nobody bats a fucking eyelid, right?
he
You've done this, right, and your
mhm.
knowledge of this, and we have spoke behind the scenes, and there's certain things that we can't speak about and we won't speak about. But what I can assure you is that, one, that if any information came by your way that would lead to the finding of a victim, or
Oh
maybe
yeah,
a
yes.
possible victim, that information would go straight to the
Yeah.
police,
Yeah.
and people need to know that.
Yeah, I would not be the cause of a family's misery, um potentially finding a victim alive or dead. If I had information like that, yeah, straight away, that's going
So
straight.
how do we wrap this up about BTK then? So BTK, how was he caught then? Take us around
Okay.
the end of his.
He after the 25-year hiatus, well, I guess is permanent hiatus because according to Dennis anyway, he didn't kill anybody else. But he um he becomes uh kind of complacent, and he starts to want that attention, so he contacts the police, and and Wichita goes crazy. They're like, the police have received um contact from the BTK killer. It's they're like, he's back. He's because they were like thinking he had just either disappeared, gone on to another state,
And
died,
he had planned to
gone to
kill again in
prison.
2004, didn't he? He planned to kill
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, he had his notebooks ready to go.
Hmm.
He had his victims at least preliminarily um, chosen. So anyway, he's talking to this one detective, and he says, "Look, um, now." Now they're talking through the newspaper, through one ad, through the personal ads at this point. So he says, "Look, if I can trust you, and I can send you a floppy disk, and you there's no way you can trace it. Please tell me the truth, and say, yeah, in this ad, yes, we can meet, we can talk, and it's, it's okay, and I'll continue the correspondence. So obviously the cop is going to say, yeah, sure, sure, I can't trace it, you know. So he does, and Dennis believes him, and he sends him the floppy disk, and the guy sends it to, his forensic IT, and they open it up, find out the last person to use this computer was at, this Protestant church, Lutheran church, um, Kingdom of God, whatever it's called, some ludicrous name, and uh, uh, the president's name is Dennis Rader, and he's the last person to use the computer. So they're like, yes, we got his name, but we don't have enough to arrest him. They don't have probable cause yet, right? They can't just arrest him on this.
Mm-hmm.
This is because he's the last person to use his computer.
This is where they start to build the
This will
case,
get thrown
basically.
out, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
they have some of his DNA, but um, it's it's presumptive DNA. It's like they could tell that certain things about him, but it wasn't DNA where you like blood, or so they can take that and go to this genealogical um uh places like there's
Ancestry and
Ancestry.com, stuff like that. Yeah. And so they locate his
yeah.
daughter, and they say, look, we need, a sample of your DNA. Boom. They get it. They're like, yes, we got it. This is Dennis Rader's daughter. We got this. So they move on it immediately. So he's coming home for lunch from his park ranger job, and he's just swarmed by cops. And Dennis is like, he gets out of the car. He's like, okay, you got me. He goes down, no fight. You know, when he gets interrogated, he says to the cop, he was like, "But you lied to me. You said you couldn't trace it." And the guy's like, "Yeah, yes, I lied to you. Of course, I needed to catch you. You're a killer." And but Dennis was like, "But you have no integrity. I trusted you. You didn't return that. You
My
know,
God, it's also like a childlike,
Yes,
in
it's
innocence.
if you want, you can watch it. It's on you. You can watch the interrogation. It's so childlike. He comes across like a really scolded, hurt child, and here's another a childish thing he does. He has a styrofoam cup that he's drinking out of, and instead of writing his name Dennis on it, so they know, he writes BTK on the cup.
So this is the fantasist coming out now.
Oh yeah, he said, "I'm who you say. I'm who you think I am. You got the right guy,
It's almost like he's relishing in the moment of being caught.
dude." When he gives his confession in court in front of the survivors, the surviving victims, the families,
Hmm.
he is so monotone, so without any human emotion at all. He just reads it like he's reading a grocery list,
Hmm.
and you know the every crime in detail, what he did. He never looks at the family members. He never uh, shows any emotion at all. He says he knows, he did terrible things or whatever, but it's all so. If you watch it, uh,
I'm
in
trying. I'm trying to actually get it up here for us to react to. I don't know which the. I don't know. Somebody says he looks like Walter White. He actually does look like
yeah,
Walter
he
White.
does. Yeah, yeah, he kind of does. And look, if you watch the Dennis Rader courtroom appearances in stark comparison to the Jeffrey Dahmer courtroom appearances, Dahmer is obviously so sincere and so contrite and so, miserable about what he's done, and so has so much self-loathing that you actually feel for him. I mean, I did. I admit, when I watched those Dahmer courtroom appearances, yeah, I feel something for the victims, but
Is there any lag in here, guys? Or is everything fine? We're gonna just watch a little bit of this here because it is a Halloween special, and
yeah,
I do want to go all out for this here. Um, so I'm not going to be able to read the comments for just a while. So listen, I'll skip through some because you might be able to skip us to the relevant parts, Sean. So
uh-huh.
what I'll do is just tell me if I'm lagging behind. I suppose here's a question before we watch this here. How old was he when he was caught from Kelsey?
Um, he was in his 50s.
Okay, okay. So
Um,
we're just gonna skip on here. And I have to
he
speak
was
every
he, he was 59. The same
yeah.
age, the reason why it just pops into my head is because he was the same age as Rex Heuermann is right now. So they were both 59 at the time of their apprehension. So that was
Both
that
on the outside staunch conservatives, but in the inside far left liberals. How fucking ironic is that? Um, fucking,
yeah.
it's just absolute madness. So, guys, I'm gonna have to speak here every 30 seconds for the reason being to make this a reaction video, and I'm not hit with a copyright strike. So I'm gonna just skip on. I'm just gonna skip on here just a little bit. Let me play this here first. So Dennis Rader, BTK.
Yeah, those are just things that we just talked about. That's just all background crap. We don't need to read that.
Yeah, it doesn't let a
All
lot.
right, Mr. Rader, I need to find out more information. On
This
that
is a sentencing.
15th day of January.
Bro, that's Walter White. That's Walter White. We're looking at Walter White. This guy
But
is the
but
Walter White of serial killing.
look how his eyebrows go up. It's like he's like a vaudevillian villain.
He's morphed into
He's like a mustache twirling villain from like an
he's
old
morphed
time
into
movie.
Fritzl, Yusuf Fritzl. You know that guy who kept his own kid, and had a kid.
Yes,
He
yes,
looks like
yes.
Yusuf Fritzl, doesn't he? The
Yeah,
mad
yes.
bastard.
January 1974. Can you tell me where you went to kill Mr. Joseph Otero?
Oh man, this isn't going to do this, is it? Can I skip by this? No, I can't.
I've never seen this. I mean, I've seen this. I've never seen the one why
1834.
it gives military time.
All right. Can you tell me approximately what time of day you went there?
Somewhere between 7 and 7:30.
This particular location, did you know these people?
No, that's
He's speaking to his solicitor, his lawyer, to see if it's okay to answer the question. What the fuck, like?
no, that was part of my I guess my
Ironically, his solicitor's a woman. What the fuck? How is she even representing this guy?
called fantasy. These people were selected.
All right. So you
Look at the little touch in the back and all.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
What the fuck? Like is she not afraid right now? Like
She sees him as a
you were
human for
engaged
some
in some
reason.
kind of fantasy during this period of time?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, when you use the term fantasy, is this something you were doing for your personal pleasure?
Sexual fantasy, sir.
I see. So you went to this residence, and what occurred?
he almost seems embarrassed, doesn't he, that he had to say sexual fantasy? But I don't give a fuck about your sexual fantasies. The fact that you've murdered 10 women.
Well,
how surreal is it, Sean, to know that you've had correspondence with this guy?
It's weird. It's it's definitely a little I'm not gonna say it's like getting a letter from Rob Zombie or somebody that you admire, somebody that you like an artist or someone
I
that
get that,
you.
but is it not like a surreal feeling to think that
Yeah,
this?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It
You know
is
what I mean?
kind of surreal. Like especially when I look at the tangible, the paper, and see his handwriting and like, hadn't sent me, like, tracings of his hands, and I'm like, these are the hands that killed a 6-year-old girl, and so it does get into your head. It doesn't like give me nightmares or anything like that, but it does get into my head at times, and like
Yeah, I get you. Well, it would do. Listen, we'll play on here a little bit anyway.
yeah.
I had did some thinking on what I was going to do to either Mrs. Otero or Josephine, and basically broke into the house, or didn't break into the house, but when they came out of the house, I came in and confronted the family, and then we went from there.
All right, had you
Yeah, boy, we just broke into that house and we just
We just went from there.
we just done
went
what I
from
needed
there.
to just done what I needed to do. It just broke into that house and just it's like this is surreal. It's like a school teacher saying, "Well, yeah, I fucking stole the pencils because I
Right.
needed them."
That's
Do
what
you know what I
that's what
mean?
I'm saying. He has no, like, it's nothing deeper than that, you know. And he has created his own world in his prison as well. Like, he's like comfortable now, and has been for quite some time. He's he because of his ability to what he calls cubing, his compartmentalizing. He's like a machine. He's like, there's switches in his head that he can just flip on and off. And
Kelsey has a very good question, and Melissa and Kelsey are coming in with the banging questions tonight. So thank you very much to both ladies. So Sean, what is his writing style? Is he articulate, nice handwriting? And actually, Sean, can you
I
can you shoot?
I
Can you shoot?
sent you several of his letters, pictures of them.
Oh right, sorry. I had to actually take them off my StreamYard because it was taking up not so much space, but there was so many of them.
Um,
I could go back on now and have you got them handy or anything? Can you just even
uh,
just
they're back in the box. And remember last time what happened? I mean,
yeah. Well, what I'll
but
actually do is I'll go back onto my
I can't
messenger.
explain his handwriting. It's very cryptic. It's almost like a doctor's handwriting. It's very hard to decipher. The first letter I received from him, I had to read 3 times to make coherent sense of it, because I could only read like every third word. And then I'd say by our second or third month of corresponding, I had learned Dennis Raderism. I had learned to recognize his style of writing, his
So
you know
which one am I looking at here? Is that his?
yeah, yeah,
So right, what I'll do is
yeah, that
that
has that he would send me these, his the drawings.
I'll just share
uh
this to the screen here, guys, for you. Apologies, by the way. That was my job to recognize that you had sent me that, and apologies to the people. I should have had this up sooner. And what I'll do now is I'll just add this to this. I'll just enter studio, and I will share this to the screen immediately once it's uploaded, so for you all to see. Let me just remove. Oh, hold on. Remove from stage. And I will put this up now for you. Give me a little second. Need to save. Sorry about this.
his handwriting doesn't really um, it doesn't kind of go
For so
along with
for some reason, it's not on.
what
Let me.
you would expect from like Haddon Clark has very feminine handwriting. He writes very, it's like flowing script, and Sam Little had handwriting like you could tell that he had very little like uh formal education. He was not like um he was more of a you know um
There we go.
there you go,
Boom.
there you go, yep. Yeah, now see this top piece, that is like he puts these codes and all these like I don't know if you can see the letters and the codes that are inside this symbol, but the C means that it came from his cave, is what he calls his cell, is his cave, and he believes, or I don't know if he actually believes, but he has created this world inside of his cell, where there are these um, little creatures, and uh, it's kind of like his own little mythology that he created. And he,
It's very Masonic looking.
yeah, it is.
Was he connected to the Freemasons?
No.
He wasn't. He wasn't. No Masonic links whatsoever.
Mm-mm.
And his handwriting. I don't know if you can see that, guys. You can take a. Are they allowed? I suppose they can take a screenshot now. It's up there
Yeah,
for them.
yeah.
Um, uh,
I think I blacked out my address, or I didn't send the envelopes, but
yeah.
um,
It's just. It's not. It's very. It looks like he's rubbed stuff out, or I don't know. Is that?
well, what he does is he makes notations. Now dig this. When you write to him, he sends you his letter, and he sends your letter back with notations on it.
Like corrections?
Not corrections, but like if you ask a question, he'll put a notation of where he answered that question in his letter, so you can cross reference. It's
Wow.
I'm telling you, it is crazy. And I mean, that's why playing chess through the mail is complicated, and it by itself, but to do it with somebody who thinks like Dennis Rader is even, it's even more mind-boggling. It's I've played chess with.
And nobody's ever seen this before. This is the first time this has been shown. This is a letter that this isn't
Oh yeah,
exclusive.
this doesn't exist in a book or anything like that.
This doesn't exist in a book, guys. So like, you are getting like what you are getting. Any serial killer fucking buffs that are watching this here. This is a letter from BTK to Sean Warner that's never been published before, and it's it has been published now. So thank you very much for that, Sean. I do refrain from showing them because without your permission, even though I do have them, I would rather have your permission. But how then did he die? Well, I don't think we'll go back into the reaction video, but how did he die? Or is he still alive?
BTK's still alive.
Yeah, he's still alive, is he? I thought he died.
No, he's still alive. His health is failing now. He's he's probably not long for this world, but I've known him for 4 or 5 years now, and he hasn't had any major illnesses. He COVID or anything like that. Yeah, it does look like doctor's handwriting. That's exactly what I said.
That's what. Yeah, I get the feeling it's like a doctor's script. He
Yeah,
has that feel to him. Like it's like he's a very. I don't want to give this guy credit, but he's like. It's the fine line between human and evil.
Yeah,
Isn't
and
it?
like Kelsey said, he writes like right between the lines. He doesn't like place his letters on the lines. He writes like it's very strange. I mean, his letters, just to look at them, they look like something. They look like an artifact, like something that
Like if you
you know.
found it in it, if you found it buried under the ground,
You'd think it was
in
from a
the
prophet or something, you know?
yeah, yeah, do you know, it's like that, and maybe that's the way he wants to present it. That there's maybe an artistic streak there through him too.
Oh,
It's
yeah, he is artistic. I sent you some of his drawings as well. He calls himself the lone wolf, so he draws this wolf
well,
head.
do you know what I'm gonna do, guys? Because it is a special, I'm gonna, if with the permission of Sean, I will share all of them to the screen.
Yeah,
If that
yeah, yeah,
if that's okay with yourself. So,
sure.
uh,
Yeah, the ones I sent you, they're they're
are they his drawings?
yes.
Right.
Yes,
So,
yeah, those are his drawings, and
okay.
there's there's uh, I believe a picture of him in his park ranger uniform that he sent me. That should be in there because I actually I thought Dennis Rader just sent me an autographed picture.
That isn't him, is it?
No, that is actually Otis Toole.
Odyssey.
That was Henry Lee Lucas's partner, and some say the killer of John Walsh's child.
He had Otis Toole. He had he had learning difficulties, didn't he?
Yes, yeah, he had like a double digit IQ. He was extremely learning disabled. He was on top of those things, he was also a sexual sadist. He was not that this is
I can't find the ones with him in his uniform. Are you sure you sent me them?
yeah, I meant to because it was on the, maybe I sent the other side because it was on the back of, is there one that looks like a seal, like it looks almost like a business card?
Let me have a wee look. So that one.
No, that's just the envelopes that he sent.
Let me see. Well, I'll share that one to the. Oh, here, hold on. I've got it here. No,
Okay.
it's in the same picture. It's in the same picture.
Yeah. It's in the same picture.
So I'll share this to the screen, guys, and this is actually quite fascinating because he's got a picture of like a beast.
That's his lone wolf character. That's his what he sort of that's how he sees himself, as this lone wolf, now that his wife and daughter and son have they've all turned their back on him, and for their own reasons. You got to put yourself in that situation. That's a tough situation.
So guys, what I'm about to show you on the screen has never been seen before by anybody, and this is artwork and sort of objects and memorabilia from BTK that was sent to Sean Warner, and this has never been seen before. So we'll have to, I have to say thank you very much to Sean for allowing me to show this first and foremost.
Sure. Yeah.
And there we go. And if you can see, look at that wolf. So there's a wolf there, right?
Yeah, the bottom one. And then see the one that's in the circle is like a mushroom. And these are the things that he imagines are growing in his cave,
Yeah. Let me just take the banner away here for 2 seconds, so people can see that fully.
Yeah.
So what you're looking at here, if people want to take a screenshot of that and scroll in, you're seeing him there. Sorry about the ring light there. You can't really. and it's a picture. It's a picture of him signed, and it says the Happy Enforcer.
Yeah, yeah.
It says the Happy Enforcer,
The
and then
happy enforcer.
you've got the wolf at the bottom. Now, guys, I have a wolf on my hand, right? So this is freaking me out here, but it's not like a wolf. It's more like a werewolf.
Yeah, it's like a werewolf. Yeah.
It's like a humanoid werewolf. And what does that say at the bottom of the werewolf? I can't really make that out.
Yeah, I let me see.
Werewolf. It says werewolf. I can't really make the other stuff out. Apologies about that.
His handwriting is atrocious. I mean, it's really okay, let me see. I've got it right here. It's, even though I'm looking right at it, it's so hard to read. Werewolf redo. I think it says werewolf redo.
That's who he was, Sean. That's who he thinks he.
Werewolf recluse.
Werewolf recluse. He's a
yes.
So let's decipher what he said. So what he said there. So I'm assuming that that's the fucking beast that he sees himself as.
Yeah, and
that's the beast. That's the beast he sees himself
underneath of there, on the yellow paper. Those are my letters to him that he sent back, and see how he used highlighter on certain parts.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
that's he. At first, the first letter I got from him, and I saw that my letter was also, I was like, this bastard just sent my letter back, and then I was like, wait a minute, there's a letter from him as well. And do you have this one? It's like another drawing he did.
No, oh my fucking God, are you serious, man?
Yeah, I sent
wow. Sam, can you screenshot that or just send me that over now, and I'll send that. I'll put that on the screen.
Yeah,
that's.
I sent it to you.
I don't have that one.
Okay.
I don't have that one. Sorry.
Okay. There you go.
Right. So let me get this up. So, Sean, that's BDSM, mate.
And then I don't know if I'm going to send you another one that I don't know if, since you didn't get that one. This one's quite interesting because the bottom part, you'll see there's an oil rig, and the oil rig is spurting black oil into the air, and it's coming down on a smiling character that is like, obviously, like he's
I'll actually screenshot it right up in so we can see that fully what the picture is, right?
It says a cave short letter, and it just says,
so let me whack this up onto the screen. So this is the one here. Look at that.
Yeah,
that's
eerie, man. Cat girl. That's what he calls that one, cat girl.
Look, you remember I said at the beginning of the podcast that you says he maybe doesn't have a particular type of woman. That sort of looks like his first victim.
Yeah, you're right. But he killed a couple of blondes too, so that's why. Like if you look at Ted Bundy's victims, you will not see any variation. They all were brunettes. They all had a certain look to them, and they all resembled his first true love, who sort of broke his heart. And
it's sort of like anime, that to a certain degree, like anime sort of like it's real.
It's like kind of like a almost like like it kind of looks like a colorful Catwoman, or like a Batman villain. That it's very odd.
We'll go on to the next one here. That that is fascinating. So this is the one you were saying.
Yeah. See, that's what he calls his what he calls writing letters. He calls wildcatting.
And what does this? Do you think this represents?
Well, I think his wildcatting is what he considers. You know, he thinks of himself as he's drilling for oil, and he's a wildcatter, which means he's drilling in areas that aren't known for containing oil. So when he strikes oil, it's like that much more satisfying to him. So
Possibly, you could be correct, and it could be a double barrel, because has he any connections with working on oil fields or anything like that? Because it could be possible burial sites for victims.
No. He didn't. He, like I said, he didn't take his victims out of their homes. Like, that was part of his thing. He wanted them to be found tied up. That's why he gave himself the name BTK. And when he would write to the police, he would send them letters, and it would be like Brian Thomas Kilman, and they'd be like, oh, BTK, so they would know it was him. I mean, it's not all that clever, but to him, that was, he was really into like James Bond movies, and code breaking, things like that. He was he's a military guy, so it's,
Well, I think, do you know what? I think that will end the stream in that there. Sean, thank you very much for joining us. There's not much more we can speak about. We can do a part 2, but for audience retention, I think that is probably enough for tonight. But Sean, I have to say this. Thank you very much for giving us the information that you've given tonight, and with the exclusive of the pictures that were sent to you by BTK himself. Now that is a trip, guys. That is a world exclusive. As I say, that's information that's totally 100% priceless. They are Sean's, and he did allow me to show them. So thank you very much for that. Just a massive thank you to everybody that's tuned in tonight. The mods, the people, these are all fantastic. Melissa, Scotch Egg, there's Official Topic Talk. He's in. Bobby, T-Side, all my mods, Stevie Boy. I don't want to miss anybody, but you know who you are. But that is the end of the show, guys. Is there anything else you would like to say, Sean?
No, just thanks to everybody who was took an interest in listening and watching, and I hope that I was able to give everybody a little glimpse inside the inner workings of a complex mind of a serial killer.
You did that, and you done more than that, Sean. I mean, a lot of people have took a lot from this tonight. So thank you very much for tuning in, guys. Sean, you're a gentleman. Until next Thursday, guys, remember, we do this every Thursday, 9 p.m. So make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, smash that like button. It really, really helps me out. Share, copy link the clipboards. If maybe you're not into this type of content, send to a friend, share to friends that maybe like this type of content. If you're watching this on Rumble, because I just checked Rumble, or I had a good few viewers on Rumble, make sure you give it a rumble. Jump over to my YouTube at HoldenOfficial1, all lowercase, or use the links in the description. If you want to jump over to my Rumble from YouTube, all the links are in the description. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys, and peace out.